Number 5. Daniel Barbosa. Daniel Barbosa, born Daniel Camargo Barbosa, and famously known as the Mangrove Monster, was believed to have murdered over 150 women and children across Colombia and Ecuador. Barbosa was born on the 22nd of January 1930 to Daniel Camargo Barceno and his father's second wife, Teresa Barbosa, a wealthy family living in Anolemia, a small town in Colombian Andes. He had an older half-sister from his father's first marriage. Barbosa's mother would later die when he was only 2 years old. His father remarried shortly after her death, leaving Barbosa with an emotionally negligent father and an abusive stepmother. Barbosa was highly intelligent, with an IQ of 116. He did well at school. However, whenever he tried to reach out to his father, his efforts were rejected or ignored. Eventually, Barbosa lost any interest of building a relationship with his father. Barbosa's childhood was mostly influenced by his stepmother, Dioselina Fernandez, since his father was more interested in his business than his children. His stepmother was still very young at the time. She is said to have been an adolescent around this period. Fernandez was obsessed with the idea of having a daughter of her own. She later found out that she was incapable of conceiving. She grew very fond of her stepdaughter, while physically and emotionally abusing Barbosa. She would punish him by undressing him from the waist down before whipping him in the bare buttocks with a bullwhip. At one point, she made him wear women's clothing, inviting his schoolmates to come watch him after he had gotten in a fight at school. This abuse made him a frequent victim of bullying at school. At this point, Barbosa had developed hate towards women and everything feminine. In the early 1940s, Barbosa was sent by his stepmother to a prestigious all-male Catholic boarding school in Bogota. Once again, he continued to excel in school, but his plans to continue to study there were halted when his family was hit by economic hardship during the La Violencia. Barbosa was forced to drop out and get a job as a door-to-door salesman to support his family, and found that it was easy to convince people living in the capital to let him in their homes or make purchases. In 1957, he started a relationship with a young client by the name of Alvira Castillo and convinced her to rent a house together. Regardless of the short amount of time they have known one another, Barbosa and Castillo would soon start having financial problems. So on the May 24th, 1958, Barbosa tried robbing a shop that was owned by one of his clients as a way to make ends meet. He was arrested a couple of hours later for petty theft and sent to a minimum security prison. He later escaped by taking a clipboard from a desk and pretending to be busy while officers were distracted. He walked out the station along with the departing officers, arriving at home and continuing with his life as if nothing happened. In 1962, Barbosa met another woman, Esperanza. He would soon leave Castillo for Esperanza, regardless of the fact that they had 2 children together. He engaged her, only to later find out that she wasn't a virgin like he had assumed, later finding her in bed with another man. At first, he wanted to end the engagement, but soon realized he was unable to do so. Using his skills at manipulation, he convinced her that she had disappointed him, and he convinced her to help him lure virgin girls to him so he could take their virginity in her place. Esperanza would later lure 5 girls to their apartments, drugging them with barbiturates, before Barbosa raped them while they were unconscious. The rapes only lasted until 1964, when their 5th victim realized what happened and was able to identify them to the police, and both of them were arrested. Barbosa was initially sentenced to 3 years, however this would later be increased to 8 years by another judge. In a statement, Barbosa considered himself a victim, and resolved that when he raped the girl the next time, he would also murder her. After serving his full sentence, he moved to Brazil, but was arrested for illegal immigration in 1973 and deported back to Colombia. He began to work as a street vendor, selling television monitors. On May 2, 1974, Barbosa was walking past a school in Barranquilla when he spotted a 9-year-old girl who, in his words, found attractive. He lured her into a secluded area before raping and then strangling her, leaving her body along with the TVs he was transporting. He returned the following day to get rid of the body and to collect the TVs he had left behind, but was followed by a police officer who already suspected him. He was arrested and sentenced to 30 years of seclusion in Gorgona, an island situated 35 kilometers off Colombia's Pacific coast. After 10 years behind bars, Barbosa ran upon a rowboat in a beach. He immediately hopped in and started paddling until he reached the mainland hours later. He was reported as a fugitive, but was assumed to have died at sea by the authorities, because the currents were too dangerous to navigate through without experience. But in truth, Barbosa spent the past years reading books and studying the sea currents, navigating and learning how to orientate himself with precision. As soon as he arrived on land, Barbosa ran south towards the Ecuadorian border. He was the first prisoner to ever escape to what was called the Colombian version of Alcatraz. He traveled to the capital of Quito, and on December the 5th or 6th of 1984 in the open, he decided to move back to the coast. On December 18, he abducted another 9-year-old girl in Quevedo, Ecuador, and killed her. It is believed he went on to commit 55 rapes and murders on little girls and adult women between 1984 and 1986. Most of these murders happened in the Guayas province and sometimes in areas a bit further from Guayas, like Quito, Ambato, and Machala. During this period, Barbosa worked as a porter in the Guayaquil markets to survive, or selling the objects he would take from the victims. Rumors began to circulate that the new serial killer nicknamed the Beast of Andes was on a mission to break the record set by Lopez's number of victims. Barbosa was finally arrested on February 26, 1986 by 2 policemen in Quito after he was found in possession of bloody clothes stolen from his final victim, Elizabeth Telpez. A suitcase was found in his possession that contained a copy of Fyodor Dostoyevsky's Crime and Punishment, which he acquired while he was still imprisoned in Gorgona. Barbosa was immediately taken into custody and moved to Guayaquil after a local woman named Maria Alexandra Velez announced that she survived an attack from a man matching Barbosa's description. He later admitted to killing 71 victims in Ecuador following his escape from prison. In 1989, he was finally convicted and sentenced to 16 years, the maximum sentence allowed for murder in Ecuador. He was sent to Garcia Moreno, coincidentally the same prison housing Lopez. On November 13, 1994, Barbosa was sitting in his cell before a new inmate, 29-year-old Giovanni Arcesio Noguero Jaramillo, entered his cell and forced him on his knees before saying, "It is the hour of vengeance." He then shanked Barbosa 8 times, killing him right on the scene, before cutting off his ear as a souvenir. Noguera showed the ear to the guards, claiming his aunt was one of Barbosa's victims and that he had avenged her. Nobody ever came to claim Barbosa's body. He has since been buried in a mass grave located in Quito El Batan Cemetery. He was 64 years old when he died.